Welcome to Conversations with Zaki Baruti, your host Zaki Baruti, and like always, I want to give a shout out to my biological family. What's happening to the Universal African Peoples Organization family? What's going on? And to New Life Evangelistic Center family headed by Reverend Rice. Keep up the great work, as well as a shout out to our cameraman. On that note, I'm just real excited because sitting here in studio with me is a young lady that is brilliant, beautiful, and committed to make a difference in our community. And I'm speaking none other than Miss Tracy Stanton. What's going on, Tracy?
What's going on? Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, I appreciate you being in studio with me. First and foremost, before I begin all of the programs, for the listeners, the thousands of listeners that's tuning in, I'd like for them to know a little bit about, I always want our guests to share a little bit about themselves, in terms of wherever you want to share in terms of your past or what have you.
Ooh, wow. Just jump right into it, huh?
Well, some of it, but I want to get into some other aspects of it. But share wherever you want to share.
Okay. I would say right now, I'm looking at this camera here. Hey, people.
Right.
I would say right now, I am currently involved in a numerous amount of organizations, all surrounding reentry, addiction and recovery, public policy and changes within our community. And that comes as a more recent stage of my life. I came home from prison in 2017. Prior to that, I spent a lot of time on the wrong track with the wrong mindset. But when I was able to come back home to some healing and things of that nature, I was able to really get in tune and tap with myself. And as I came through, I realized that it was my responsibility to make sure that my people come through as well.
I know that's right.
Yes.
So within that context that you are dealing with organizations that's having an offer in hand to those who are into reentry. And one of the amazing things about you is your own life story that you had kind of shared with me.
Yes.
And if you don't mind, I'd like for you to share with the audience from this perspective that there may be those family members who see your story, can share that with one of their family members that may be having some serious issues and what have you. So it's in that spirit that I want you to share your story, starting with, there's a lot of trauma that does exist in family life sometime in our communities, not just in our communities, throughout many families in, in America. So let's start with your early trauma.
Yes. So also my brand, I'm Queen of Transparency and Transition. So there is nothing basically off limits, okay? So let me just say, by the age of 7 years old, starting at 7 years old, I witnessed the death of my brother, right?
You witnessed the death of your brother?
Witnessed the death of my brother. It wasn't a homicide, anything like that. He got electrocuted in our home.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so at 7 years old, I opened the door and I was the first one to find him stretched across, deceased. Therapy or anything like that was just not, prevalent in our community. It's not, something that we talk about, something that we even had knowledge of, at that time. And so after that, the family, my mother...
But let me stop you. So how old are you? Do you mind?
I'm 38. No, I'm 38.
Okay, 38. You're looking good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we all right with that. Yeah, 38. Grateful.
Right. Okay,
Grateful.
I know that's right.
Yes.
But you, you opened the door and found
my brother stretched across from the tub to an old washing machine.
Okay.
Right? This was one of my favorite brothers. He was the protector. He was the one that kept the family. He was the one that was like, hey, my mother had high aspirations. For all the kids, they want the best. But this one, he was like the one, the protector, like the glue. Mm-hmm. And my mother, I remember that she was in nursing school at that time. However, my father was addicted to crack cocaine. He used to abuse my mother. So she was going through a lot. Never really...
Were they together at that point?
They were together. We were all in the household at that point.
And how many?
So it's, I had 3 brothers. Well, I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters, but only one sister was living in the household with us, and I was the baby at that time.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so after that experience with my brother, my mother had a mental breakdown.
Wow. Right.
Mental breakdown. The family dynamic split. My older siblings, they were old enough to go on their own. My other brother, he went with my father, and my older sister, she went with my aunt, and I stayed with my mother. Mm-hmm. So that is really when majority of the trauma after experiencing that began. So she had a mental breakdown. We lost our home. We were staying from place to place. We were homeless. My mother had turned somewhat abusive, not by any nature of her own, but as a result of the mental breakdown. So it was just me and her. You know what I mean? And during that time,
Was she receiving any kind of care?
no, she wasn't receiving any kind of care. She wasn't receiving any kind of care. So I've been homeless, you know what I'm saying, at a very young age. And then she ended up having my little sister. And so I had to care for my little sister because my mother was not in a mental state to care for herself. You know what I'm saying? Nevertheless, me or another newborn baby. And I remember witnessing my mother like whoop my sister, and she was in a pumpkin seat. So me having to, become an adult now for our survival. And then during that time.
At the age of?
At that time, I was 7, 8.
Okay,
yeah.
Still at 7, 8.
Yeah, still at 7, 8.
Okay,
when all this occurred.
Okay.
And so after that, we ended up going, I got molested in between that time, going to a store by a authoritative figure. Let me just say that.
Is that right?
Yes, by an authoritative figure.
What?
That wears a badge.
Wow, a police officer.
A police officer,
yeah.
yes,
Okay.
into a vacant building. And so when I came out of that vacant building, and it was all on...
Damn, you make me want to cuss.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so, because this is an authoritative figure, and they tell you to come do something, so you go do it.
Right.
And we went into this vacant building, and whatever happened in there happened. And when it was leaving out, it was like, I'm going to tell your mother if you say anything. So, it's the fear. So that's how a lot of predators keep the children silent, because, or I'm going to hurt your mother, I'm going to tell your mother, because you weren't supposed to be going to work with strangers now. And then he offered me some money, and I'm thinking, okay, well, he's going to give me money. I can give this to my mama. We don't have no money. We need this, not to do it as a sexual act, but it was to go find a lost cat or something like that, right? And so, that was those. So those were those extremes. And then so we come back. We finally get into the Hope House on Hodemont and Martin Luther King, because we were going from shelter to shelter. So we finally get into that Hope House, and I believe that my mother had to get on some type of medication while we were there because her mental health started to stabilize. Right, and then one day I remember that they took us to the zoo, and they took us to Six Flags. And when I came back, they told me your mother is your little sister's getting put up for adoption, and you're going to live with your father. Mm-hmm. I didn't know why.
Hold on that thought. We have to take a quick break.
For the outcast all alone, for the man without a home, for that desperate heart that gives their soul away in the hope they'll be held close, and for the sad neglected wife, for the man life has passed by, for that rejected man who's dying all alone, for the way he lived his life. There is hope. There is hope.
One of the most difficult things in life is loving difficult people, particularly people that are so headstrong, so belligerent, and so bigoted that we just find ourselves resenting everything about them. But thank God for His mercy. So rather than reacting to their bigotry, perhaps we need to take a look at our shoe a little closer and see that shoes come in all different sizes, shapes, and colors, and God has called us to love them all. On the end of the shoe, there's a heel. We all have a tendency to be heels at times. And so we can become the biggest heels, and God wants us to come to Him and ask Him for forgiveness for when we're a heel. But He wants us to have the ability to love those that seem like the real heels. We got to remember they all got soles, just like we have at the bottom of the shoe, and the shoe is flexible. Also, in the shoe, there's eyes. And so we need to ask God to show us that that's not what this person is saying and doing is just not totally who they are. We need to see some good in that person, and may we have eyes to see that and have the ability to be obedient to love them. As Jesus said, "New commandment I give you, that you love one another." That means controlling our tongue, that we're not just as bigoted and unkind as they are, so we can reflect God's love. And actually, a shoe just doesn't work by itself. It's got to have a foot in it, and that means we need God's love in our life each day. And it doesn't just operate by itself. They come in pairs. So there's people out there that God wants to bring into our lives that He wants us to work together with. So let us let God come and work in our lives and direct us as we journey through life. Let's ask Him to give us that grace to love difficult people. Some are rough, Some are smooth. They come in all different sizes, shapes, and colors. May our tongues offer kindness and gentleness and patience. And may we be abiding in God's love always so it can flow through us, that we can engage in His revolution of love and be a people who are different, a people who are willing to stand up and love one another just as Christ told us to do.
Welcome back to Conversations with Zaki Baruti. In studio with Miss Tracy Stanton, who's an activist in our community, but she's sharing some drama that had occurred in her life as an example of how people's lives can be changed around. So bear with us. So you had moved back to your with your father.
So I had to move with my father, who was addicted to crack cocaine. So you can imagine how their lifestyle was. We weren't taken care of as far as physically, how we were fed, things like that. He did feed us, and he was a working, functioning drug addict. But we used to get locked in the house and things of that nature, right? So I got tested for gifted schools in second grade. So I went to gifted schools ever since I was in the second grade all my life. But it was like the home life that was never really able to nurture in and, really hone those skills, right? So a little bit later, I moved in with my aunt, and she ended up raising us. But during that time, my father had molested me. So it was a one-time incident, and after that, he went into treatment. He stayed clean from that moment on. So I believe that the drugs led him to become someone that he did not know, and I know that for a fact now because the drugs did the same thing to me later on in life, right? So from that point, so that was between 7 and 10, and then at 10, my mother died also. Okay. So between 7 and 10, all these different layers of trauma, right? So we got grief, loss, sexual and physical abuse, rejection, abandonment, all of these issues, right? Going to school, getting teased, all of those things. Going to school, getting teased, all of those things. So at 12 years old is when I first started using marijuana, weed.
At what age?
12.
12, okay.
Yes. So, the reality, pondering over the things, the experiences that I experienced, and not knowing how to deal with the feelings, not knowing how to cope, not having anyone to talk to about it, So
you start using marijuana, and anything heavier than that? You said?
No, at that time, just marijuana and alcohol and sex.
Oh, okay.
So anything outside of me that could make me feel different than how I felt when I was normal.
Oh.
And that's what started my cycle of addiction, basically.
Okay. And so starting your cycle of addiction on the harder drugs was at what age?
So that was at around 18. So at 18, I started taking ecstasy and doing cocaine. I was a chameleon, right? Because I had so low self-esteem. I did not like being dark-skinned. All of these
you didn't like the beauty of yourself?
No, I didn't.
God had placed upon you?
No, God had placed upon me. No, social influences told me that this wasn't a measurement of beauty. And in my household, there was no one gave me any Zora Neale Hurston books. No one gave me any Maya Angelou books. Nobody told me about Assata Shakur. No one told me about Angela Davis. Like this. Those people.
Y'all just heard some powerful names and some powerful sisters. I just want folks
folks know, but nobody was there to give me that. So my perception of myself was based on reality. I mean, was based on the social construct of reality that was given to me.
Which historically, just for folks, you go back to Brown. What was the old kid saying? If you yellow, you mellow. If you're white, you're all right. If you
brown, you down.
Brown, you something. And if you black, get back. I mean, it was all perpetrated throughout society for people of color, especially dark complexion people, to hate themselves.
Yes.
And that was projected in the movies and writings and so on. So you were
highly affected by that.
Okay.
Highly affected by that.
Okay, then.
So at later years, I've always been able to conform to whatever the surroundings may be because I was always seeking love and attention and affection, right? Healthy or unhealthy.
But let me interject on a point while it's on my mind, just to share in terms of, for my own personal reawakening, never forget, I grew up oldest of 10 in a very poverty-stricken area, and outside toilet, outside water faucets, so I know about poverty also.
Yes.
But one thing that helped my consciousness when we talk about the self-hatred of ourselves, I was light complexion, so, that afforded me a whole nother reality.
That gave him,
But in terms of understanding that dynamics of race, a brother named Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, came and spoke in East St. Louis. I was about 18, 17. And then we had grew up on Lone Ranger movies and Tarzan. And Kwame Stokely Carmichael said that was an example of psychological damage, because here we are rooting for talking about Tarzan here, a white, scroungy young guy in the jungle whooping the black folks and controlling the animals, and we rooting for him, because I used to root for Tarzan.
Yeah.
I say, damn, a light bulb went up in my head as far as the psychological damage. So that's an important point, that we have to reconstruct how we look at ourselves.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So I'm sorry I interrupted you.
That's okay. So it started at 18. I started getting involved with different type of people, that were doing different type of drugs, and because I wanted to fit in, whatever environment it was, I started to. And then because I always wanted to, like I said, I always wanted to not feel normal because I wasn't happy with myself, because I had so many different layers of trauma just still circling and cycling within myself, and I didn't know what to do with them. So even though I maintained having pretty decent jobs and things like that, I always used, and it got worse and worse. And so the cocaine and ecstasy ended up, and that was at from 18 on. I worked at the Federal Record Center. I've been a supervisor of the dental department, dental assistant, all of those things. But behind the appearance, the facade that we were so much, that we were so well, and that we tend to put on was still the hurt and pain. So I ended up obtaining something that I always sought to have through another means of psychological influence, was a dope boy. Because growing up in the neighborhood and in the music that I listened to and everything that was portrayed, a dope boy. So a man that sold drugs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They call that what?
A dope boy.
Oh,
a dope boy for the people that understand.
Boy.
Yeah, a
okay.
dope boy. A dope boy. A dope boy for the people that don't know.
Something else. Okay, then.
So and then one day I decided to try the heavier drugs, and it was over and that was at 33.
At 33.
At 33 years old.
Now, one other aspect of your life I just want to also, if you don't mind, deal with, but we don't have to take a quick break.
I hope you're enjoying the Zaki Baruti show. Now, we need your help to get the word out about this community affair program and so many others. Now, how do you do that? Well, you tell folks to turn to 24.2 on their television set, and even family, friends, relatives that live outside of the area, well, get them to put the NLEC TV app on their phones and look it up on their computer. 24 hours of wholesome family programming. So much community programming that you're not getting on other stations right here on NLEC TV. So please spread the word. And while you're doing that, continue to get involved in the work of the New Life Evangelistic Center. So many opportunities awaiting you and your family at this particular time. New Life Evangelistic Center is on the front lines with first responders, directly helping homeless people day after day after day. Behind me are the new headquarters for the New Life Evangelistic Center, along with the studios for NLEC TV or 24.2. You may want to drop by and visit them sometime. This is where we record the Zaki Baruti program at 2428 Woodson Road in Overland, Missouri. New Life Evangelistic Center is offering homeless people so many opportunities to be set free from the cycle of homelessness, has a wide variety of safe houses, and so many women and children are staying there, and they're learning all different kinds of different skills, all kinds of skills here at 2428 Woodson Road. We also have the training centers in New Bloomfield, Missouri, Marshfield, Missouri, the largest daytime walk-in facility, southwestern Missouri, northwestern Arkansas at 806 North Jefferson, in Springfield, Missouri, the worldwide work of the New Life Evangelistic Center in Kakata, India, and then in Lagos, Nigeria, and in Haiti, all over New Life Evangelistic Center, trying to help people that are in need. New Life Evangelistic Center receives no city, state, or federal dollars, and we're only able to do this as a result of the prayers and involvement of caring people like you. So please pray for this work, and please partner with the New Life Evangelistic Center so we continue to keep the Zaki Baruti Show and the other community affair programs on the air. Remember, tell everyone you know about it, and go to the NLEC TV app.
Welcome back to Conversations with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is a lovely and beautiful young lady who has one heck of a story to share, and it's a story for me of transformation, but going through the rough side of life, and she's open about it, and prayerfully it could be an example of how you can transform your life from if you're going through some things. And I'm speaking of Tracy Stanton. And Tracy, obviously you have a brilliant mind, but during the period that you was going through, you're looking for the dope boy. And you found one.
And I found one, yeah.
So in finding one, back when we were growing up, you had what was called the pimps. The pimps would be putting ladies out on the street to make money for them and what have you. Did you experience?
So not at all. Actually, the dope boy that I got involved with was actually a very loving and caring person. And he didn't want me to. He didn't think, or he didn't want me to become one of his customers. That wasn't his aspirations. When he found out that was going on, he was heartbroken. You know what I'm saying? He was heartbroken. So,
but he at the same time had some other folks that he was. Had them engaged in being addicted?
I mean, well, let me just say he had his clientele.
Right,
that,
okay.
He had his clientele. There wasn't no... You know how it is. I mean, this is the nature of our community. So I wouldn't say that he solicited people, but he sold drugs and they came to purchase them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But he also took care of the neighborhood. It's like an oxymoron, and that's what a lot of people in our community do, because this is what is afforded to them, and this is what they know, and this is what they have been taught, and this is what they have been seeing. You know what I'm saying? They don't have figures, and they don't have role models in their direct family, in their throughout their process of adulthood or development. They don't have role models that are going to college that are, these are the role models that they have. So this is what they aspire to be. You see people with nice things and you want those things, but nobody in your community really has those things except for the dope man. The parent or the uncle or the cousin that's going to work every day, they don't have nothing. They don't barely have $5. Right. You know what I'm saying? So the mind, like if you think about the strain theory of deviance, is that when you do not have the ability to be provided the resources that community that cultural resources that you should have, it puts a strain on you and anxiety. And so then you if you can't obtain them through standard measures,
then you do what you
need to do.
Right. So within that context, just very bluntly, did you walk the streets?
So yes. So after I so the house was kicked in.
And for folks, when I say walk the streets,
you mean prostitutes.
Right.
So yes. So the women that you see, if you are from St. Louis, and I'm pretty sure they have
and we
strolls
have people
everywhere.
looking from across the country.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So wherever you are, I'm pretty sure they have strolls or outside where women prostitute themselves. If they're not doing escort services or brothels or things like that, but they have strolls. They're called strolls. They are neighborhoods where women walk to prostitute themselves. Most likely it's to obtain drugs. So for a short portion of my time in my addiction, I was one of those women. So those women outside, those are my friends. You know what I'm saying? I still go see them. I still go drop them off clothes and food sometimes, safe sex kits, and that's one of the initiatives that I'm working on that we'll speak about, I guess, maybe in the next segment. But yes, I was one of those women. And I would say that being one of those women fed two of my maladies that I had within inside of me. So the addiction, but also the need for attention. Because of people, a lot of people, we just talk about addiction and things like that. We just think about drugs, but there's so many things that people are addicted to that we don't really talk about in society.
Also, for those who's listening who might say, oh, she was on the street walking, it took me back to a story in the Bible when some people were saying throw a stone at the prostitute, and Jesus said, who will be the first one to throw the stone, So, my heart goes out to, people who are on the streets in any form or any manner in terms of the struggles that I know people are undergoing. So, and you also made mention the next segment, because we have not even began to deal with what you're doing now.
Yes.
So, we are going to have a second segment, but we'll have to take another break right now.
Instead of living in darkness and hopelessness, let's let the light and love of Christmas shine through us. It's possible, even in the midst of a pandemic. Now, things may look pretty hopeless out there for you. It could look that way for all of us. But if we truly know that Christ is risen, it changes everything. We're free in our spirit to let our light so shine before men and women. They may see the good works and glorify our fathers in heaven. We may be able to point individuals to the hope that only Christ can give. We want to give you the opportunities here at the New Life Evangelistic Center that the Lord lays before us daily to help so many hurting and homeless people all over Mid-America. You can go and find us at the World Wide Web at nlecstl.org. There's many social media sites there, ways you can directly connect, or you can call us at 314-421-3020. But right now, instead of living in darkness and hopelessness, let's take God at His word. Let's rise up and let our light shine before a hurting world.
If anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need, but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but in actions and in truth. Say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you did not look after me. Destruction then was just a sample.
Welcome back to Conversations with Zaki Baruti. In studio with me is the lovely, intelligent, and beautiful Tracy. Tracy Stanton. And on that note, just want to remind people that we'll be doing a second segment, so please make sure you tune in, because we have not even began to deal with the current work that she's doing. So fast forward real quick, how did you get to change? But you also had a little experience of being incarcerated.
Yes, I had some experience of being incarcerated.
How did you get incarcerated?
Yeah, well, I mean, within that lifestyle that I was telling you about with the boyfriend and all those things, we were selling a heavy amount of drugs, and so the house was kicked in. I had some drugs on me, so I got a possession of a controlled substance, and from that point, that was the charge that led me to prison eventually.
So how long were you in?
I was in there for 120 days. I went to treatment, so I was able to go. So they sent me to institutionalized treatment, and I was I cycled in and out of the workhouse for like all of 2016, but in 2017, that's when I went to prison. And when I came home from prison, I went to a transitional house, which now I'm a board member of that transitional house.
Okay.
So that is where my life began. That is where this person was formed.
The beautiful and lovely Tracy Stanton.
There we go, yes.
Then. So in that your life was transformed, and that's and you're doing some positive work now, and that's what I want to deal with in terms of on the second segment. But as a teaser, what are some of the involvements that you're currently involved in now? We only got a couple minutes.
Okay, well, I am a board member of Center for Women in Transition, which is a transitional house that I went to when I came home. They provide the women with a year of stabilized living, housing, therapy, access to resources, personal and professional development. So that's one thing. And then I also facilitate classes to women that are transitioning back into society from prison and recovering from active addiction. So we teach them basically how to retrain their thinking and be more assertive in their thinking and be more in tune with their emotions. I'm also work at the Bail Project, which is a nationwide nonprofit organization.
Bail?
The
Bail.
Bail.
You talking about ringing a bell?
No, I'm talking about bail. Like people that get locked up and they can't pay their bail, we pay it for them. So Bail, B-A-I-L Project, which is a very, very, very prominent organization.
And one other thing, though, I said we only got 1 minute left. On the education tip, did you, during your trauma, did you graduate from school?
So during my trauma, I graduated from school a year early at 17. And I went to Lincoln University and I didn't do anything but get high, and then I came home.
Wow. So are you currently in school?
So currently I am a student at St. Louis University, maintaining a 4.0.
Oh, go ahead with your bad self. That's great then.
Yeah, that's what's going on.
So on that note then, if you had a word of inspiration, we only got 30 seconds, 15 seconds, what would be that?
That never stop, never stop. You are only as long as you have breath in your body and you have a sound mind, there's always hope.
Okay, again, tune in next week. You'll look at the kind of work that she's doing directly Thank everybody for tuning in. Now, we say make a difference in our community. We say join the Universal African Peoples Organization. Be one of our 144,000 members. On that note, may God bless each and every one of you.